you all for taking some time out of your lunch today to join us. It should be a relatively quick presentation. We'll go through some of the project details, and then at the end we'll have time for questions and answers. I would ask, though, for those of you who are keen to learn the details, we're going to share the website for our Getting to Zero research project in the chat. So if you have the ability to do so while we're joining us, please open that website, and about a third or two, three, or is it? No, near the top of the website is our project guide. That guide has all the details in it that I'll be covering and more. So if you have questions that we might be directing you towards that program guide. And also just note that this is our first iteration of this research project. So we are learning as well. So you might ask questions I don't have answers to yet, and I'll have to go back and chat with our team about them, and we'll come back to you with any responses that we have. So thank you very much for being here. Getting to Zero is Alberta Ecotrust's newest project or program. It's technically a project, but I like to think of it as a new offering, a new program that we have here at Alberta Ecotrust. Really excited to present this to you, and hopefully be able to share a lot of this information with the builders in Alberta, but also with all of our other partners as well. Just as a reminder of who we are, for those of you who may not know us, we are a charitable organization that advances environmental and climate solutions across Alberta, and we collaborate with a ton of diverse partners, government, industry, nonprofits, Indigenous communities, as well as many other people, to help create a future where both people and nature thrive. And we've been doing this since 1991. So what we do is we try to mobilize resources, we deliver innovative programs, not unlike this one, and support impactful projects that protect and restore nature's natural ecosystems, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and build on community resilience. So that's just the Coles notes of who we are. I already mentioned our vision and our mission. I also really want to make sure that it's clear that we do work across all of Alberta, not just in Edmonton and Calgary, which is where our home bases physically are. We recognize the traditional territory of many diverse Indigenous people, including Treaty 6, 7, and 8 nations, the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprising of the Siksika, Kainai, and Piikani First Nations, the Cree, Dene, Nakota Sioux, Saulteaux, and the Métis Nation of Alberta. And we are really excited that in a lot of the work that we're doing right now at Alberta Ecotrust, we're getting to work with a lot of these great Indigenous communities. So let's talk about why we're here today, Getting to Zero research project. Essentially, this project is, I should say straight off the bat, is a project that we have piggybacked off of our sister organization. Alberta Ecotrust is one of the low carbon cities initiatives across Canada, and we for both Edmonton and Calgary. And one of the other entities like us is Zeke in British Columbia, and they have a program called Near Zero, which this one is very closely mimicked after. And we thank them so much for their support in helping us set it up and design it here and for a very specific Alberta market. What we're trying to do with this particular project is to work with designers, builders, consultants, contractors, and developers, and home builders of Part 9 residential buildings to gather data on their low or zero emissions buildings or projects that support that work. So this is really about a data gathering project from all of these different players. So it is not, and I'll touch on this as we go through multiple times, but it's not geared towards homeowners themselves. We have 3 different streams in this program, and we have a fantastic online application portal that's really straightforward, and we have a strong team that can help people through it as well if necessary. Our first stream of the program is specifically focused on helping us collect data on the design and construction of Part 9 residential projects with low or zero operational emissions. So this is all about new construction right now. I will say, this is phase 1 of this project. If we start to see good demand for it, we may also look at retrofit related information or Part 3 projects as well. We're starting small. Our embodied mission stream, which collects data on the design and construction phase of new Part 9 residential projects that use low carbon materials specifically. And then the third project is about collecting data from planned or recently completed Part 9 residential projects that have installed combined cold climate heat pump and natural gas heating systems, because we're trying to explore how much of an impact these combined systems are making on reducing our emissions in Alberta. So these are the basic summaries of each of the different streams, and there's a lot of details on how they work. The idea behind them is simply that as a builder, you sign up for one of these projects because you're already doing this type of work, or you're about to start doing this type of work on specific buildings, and then we purchase data off of you as you go through the process. So our first stream is to help improve industry understanding of design strategies and construction requirements. So this is really about like what is currently working, what could be done better. And we want to start understanding costing. So providing costing details is actually a requirement of the program. We understand that costing is something that people hold very close to their chest. And so we've worked on trying to identify the bare minimum of what we would need and trying to keep things as sort of, I guess you could say like confidential as possible, but all of that's clearly outlined in our program requirements. Embodied emissions is really understanding our current practices on what we're building in Alberta. So what are we even building to? Where is our baseline that's naturally happening because of the traditional construction methods here in the province? How can we find practical substitutions for materials that we might want to start promoting or showing that is accessible here in the province, understanding if these are increasing or decreasing costs associated with these products, or design changes that might be reducing the need for high embodied carbon materials, and highlight any barriers or training needs. So this is the only stream where we have of minimum training requirements actually required for the stream, and we will be providing all of that training for free to providers. The third item here is a combined heat pump one, as we mentioned, and really we want to understand that real world performance and understanding the emissions impacts of these different combined systems, understanding the contractor practices, installation requirements, system sizing, anything that we might not have a full strong grasp on in the industry. So, as I mentioned, our eligibility is really focused on the people who are doing the work. So the designers, the builders, consultants, developers, home builders, contractors. And for stream 3 only, where we're adding a heat pump and natural gas system, retrofitters would be allowed, because that stream does allow for retrofits. The other thing is that we're trying to do two different things. We're trying to learn from different builders across the province. And so if a builder were to come to us with like 25 new projects they were doing, we wouldn't necessarily be learning new things from all 25 different projects. So we're limiting at this point to 2 projects per builder per stream. So that could be a 6 total that you'd be eligible to receive. And then also because we don't have unlimited funding for this. So we wanted to make sure that we were spreading out the funding so that new builders who may have never tried this before could access the work that we're trying to do here. If there is a homeowner that's keen to do this work with us, they would be encouraged to work with their builder, to have the builder actually work directly with us on the contract. And we're not working formally with academic institutions. And if you are undertaking the retrofit for stream 1 and 2, then you wouldn't be eligible for 3. These are all sort of detailed, so you can't essentially double dip in getting funding for your heating system in both streams 1 and 3 is essentially the issue. Our projects must be in Alberta. We have actually secured funding from multiple parties that allow us to pay for projects in Edmonton, Calgary, and the rest of Alberta. The project must end no more than 24 months after the start date of when our funding agreement is signed. Or sorry, a contract, not funding agreement, is signed, so that this isn't going on for multiple years. If for some reason your project is held up, absolutely come and talk to us, but it can't be planned to be longer than 24 months. And we're working with residential projects only right now. So Part 9, and we're being very flexible that any Part 9, so we've had some people approach us about 16 unit buildings that are technically Part 9 and meet our other requirements, that would fulfill the requirements we have. If you have a single family home, we are not looking for extremely large single family homes necessarily for all of this. So there are some size limitations. Um, we have um, Yes, we don't have commercial projects are not eligible for any of the streams at this point, but if you are interested, as I mentioned, please let us know. We are potentially exploring what this might look like. And I think I went through the rest of these details. So let's get into some of the details here. The stream requirements. So for the first project, which is our stream is operational emissions, they have to be either in the design or construction phase of a project. So we're pretty flexible there. But if it's under construction, it has to be started within 12 months of the application date. So if you apply today through our online portal, you could not have started the project more than 12 months ago. So maybe it's been delayed for some reason and things aren't moving very quickly. That's fine. We'll still take you in as long as it wasn't more than 12 months ago. The project must be designed to tier 4 or 5 or a CHBA net zero certification. So this is a project where we're trying to learn about higher tiered performance. So they have to meet those specs for us to be able to work with you on the first stream. We also must include a heat pump of some form. So it could be ground source, air source, but it must heat at least 50% of the building. For our second stream, conditions are that it can be through design or construction. And if it's under construction, the foundation can't be complete yet. And part of that reason is because the foundation of a building is one of the key pieces when it comes to impacting embodied carbon. So we want to be able to say, like, make some considerations in your design step that might help reduce embodied carbon in the second step. Assessments, basically, the project must have an embodied carbon lower than 200 kilograms of CO2 equivalent per meter squared, which is a very low bar to hit, to be honest. We provide, you'll see later, additional incentives for hitting even lower, but that's an industry standard that's not that difficult to meet. But if you're not even meeting that, then it wouldn't be eligible for the program. And then finally, our heat pump program, we are taking projects that might have been installed already completely in the past, as long as it's within the last 2 years, in part because we need to collect utility data. So if you installed 2 years ago and we can get utility data for 2 years up to today, that's great. We'll take that information. It must include a cold climate heat pump system because we're really keen to understand how those work specifically in our market. Yes, and the other piece for the third stream, which is a little bit unique, is that we require that we get approval from the homeowner to access 2 years worth of utility data. The fine print on how we do that is pretty complex, but it is something that we'll happily work through with the contractor doing this work. But the homeowner has to provide that data, or else it just doesn't provide the needs that we need for the research side of it. So here's how our payments flow. This would be from Alberta Ecotrust directly to the contractor upon receipt of the data, essentially. So if you are up to tier 4, you'll get $15,000. Tier 5 would be $20,000, and we provide an additional $5,000 if it is a ground source heat pump that has been installed or is going to be installed for the project. And the way that it works is there's 2 phases. So there's a construction intake, or a design intake. So you provide a lot of information on your design processes, as well as a survey that you complete that tells us more of the qualitative pieces around the process that you went through. Once all of those requirements under the first step are provided to us, we would provide 50% of the funding. And then the second one is the construction side. So once construction is complete and you can provide us with all the rest of the things that we're asking for, once we've received all of those, we will provide the other 50% of the funding. Similarly for the embodied emissions, so this one's a little bit more complex because we wanted to incentivize projects trying to get to a lower embodied carbon. So all projects, if you meet the base eligibility, will receive $6,000, split up similarly 50% at the first step and 50% at the second step. We'll provide an additional $4,000 for projects that are at least 20% below that average. So this is really pushing the market so that we can start to see what kind of materials and design strategies can be used in Alberta to start to gather better information on this. And then finally, the third one is we will cover 50% of the total cost of the project up to $8,000 per project. So assuming that the project was $16,000 total, that we would be paying you $8,000 for the project. It can cover, essentially what it does is it covers things like the cost of equipment design, installation, hookup, and energy modeling. The second payment is adjusted based on how much the actual project costs. So we might have given you more than 50% at the beginning, and if it ends up being less than 16,000, we would adjust accordingly. I can explain that in more detail if someone has specific questions, but because we won't know the total cost of the project till it's done for this one, it's a little bit, and the percentage we provide is based on the total cost. It's a little bit more complex to navigate. Okay, so the project deliverables are in detail in our research project guidelines. I think they've the website and accessing them is provided. I'm going to go through some of them in a little bit more detail with you, I think, but I just wanted to make sure that you all had access to those. Oh, I am not going to in this presentation, but if people have questions, I absolutely will pull them up and we can go through them. Or if we have enough time at the end here, I'm happy to go through the detailed requirements. To provide a little bit more information about the expression of interests and evaluation, the way that this is working is we will be doing this intake twice a year. So this is the very first one. We will have another one in the summer. So if you're not ready for this one, don't worry about it. We're very happy to talk with you in the summer. This one, expression of interest portal is now open. You would submit your expression of interest, and there's very little that's actually required for this phase. So don't feel like it's really intimidating. It's more just making sure that you're eligible for the project, and that we have a way to sort of assess you compared to your peers because we only have so much funding. So we have to make sure that just like in an RFP, we're getting what we need out of the project. Then we will close the portal on February 20th. So you have until then to submit your projects. And then in late February, we will be screening and shortlisting the successful proponents. And then the projects will be contracted. So basically, we'll have a contract agreement that we send out to you that says if you deliver us these pieces of research data, we will pay you your funds for those. And then through March through April, we would assume that's when people are starting to send in some of their initial documentation if projects are already starting to roll, and we'll start paying out disbursements, knowing full well like some of these projects might not be ready by March, April, but we will be ready to start paying you as needed at that point. I also wanted to, before I go into the details of the program with anyone, talk a little bit about our funders. Thank you so much to the cities of Calgary and Edmonton who through either through our existing funding agreements for the NBEX program or through additional ones have provided funding for this project. Also, the RBC Foundation is supporting this work and the Peter Gilgan Foundation. So thank you very much to all of them. And again, quick thank you to Zeke for their support in all the documentation to set up the program. So that's what I have there. I'm very happy to get into the program details. I just need to open everything up on my computer and I can share that screen instead. Let's see if I can do this instead. But if there's any questions to start, happy to take them.
Andrea,
Hey, Jacob.
quick question. What kind of data are you looking for?
Yeah, okay, so let's get into the details here. Sharing my screen. Sorry, I need to share. Reshare this page instead. Mm-hmm. It's all in Appendix A of the program guide, which I will jump to right now. So for stream one, for instance, the expression of interest is pretty straightforward. It just shows who's eligible. And then we do give some preference towards certain types of projects. So for instance, actually, the scoring matrix that's the link there provides the details, but things like infill, things that generally align with the city's climate plan, we provide like bonus points essentially in scoring you, and those are all detailed in the matrix. But these are the base requirements. Um, in order to receive the first payment for the data for the design deliverable, we'd have to obviously have a research contract signed. We have a design questionnaire. So the questionnaire really is it's a multiple choice questionnaire that the builder would fill out or the designer would fill out. It has both quantitative and qualitative responses, but it's really about like how did you go about doing the design behind this project? Was there integrated design? How long is the construction timeline taking you? What what kind of high performance design approaches have impacted your schedule? How constructible was this project? So there's a whole bunch of sort of those types of questions that really should take about 30 minutes to answer as long as you've got someone who really understands the project working behind it. We want all of your permit application documentation, essentially. So that'll gives us mechanical, electrical systems, all of your drawings, all of that type of stuff that you would submit to the city for your permitting, is what we want to make it easy. So you're already submitting it to the city, you can just submit it to us as well, and then we would have all that data. We do we wanted to specifically point out that we're looking for electrical and mechanical system detail cut sheets. So anything that you have there, just making sure that it's included. It should be included in your permit application, but just in case, we wanted to point that out. If you haven't submitted your building permit yet, we want proof that or you do need to actually submit it. So it's got to be at that point where you're moving forward. So we just need proof that you've submitted into the system. Whether or not it's been approved, that doesn't matter to us, just that you're moving forward at. The Hot 2000 files for energy modeling, we require your F280 calculations as well. And your
Andrea, sorry.
construction budget. Although I'm just looking at this now, and this is design, which none of these should be in here. So I need to go through and double check because these are all going to be F280 would be on no, these are all done in design. Yeah, so
Well,
these are
and does it have to be Hot 2000? What if you used something way better than that?
great question. Yeah, we specifically put Hot 2000 in here, but I will add that to our things to consider for revision. Yeah, different energy modeling tools would be fine. The only concern I would have is that we'd want to make sure that the outputs were the same in the way that we can, because we need to use the base outputs of the modeling tool to be able to do our internal math on emissions reductions and things like that, right? So I think it probably shouldn't be a problem. We just need to make sure that they align.
Yeah, I'll probably be able to get any output that Hot 2000 does.
Yeah, yeah, that should be fine. So yeah, we'll document and get back to you on that one, Jacob. And then we also have a construction budget breakdown. So we have a worksheet here let's see if this works. You all see this worksheet now? Yeah. So basically, we've got different categories and details around what we're looking for, design costs, and then post-construction, if anything changed. It also, if you're doing a stream two, we ask if it's in your beam estimation or beam calculator. We are requiring that people take training in beam or EMC squared. That's a training we're providing for embodied carbon related emissions. If you're using a different embodied carbon tool, we can talk with you. Right now, we're just not really well set up to process those. We're trying to sort of standardize the knowledge side of things. But right now, those are the ones that we're using. Our post-construction deliverables that we're looking for are a construction questionnaire, so different questions than the design one about like what happened on the physical construction side of the project that we're trying to gather. Um, are your pre and post drywall blower door test results we're looking for. Final energy modeling files, your F280 analysis that's been, if anything's changed there. We are requiring EnerGuide labeling in partnership with the cities, at least for sure for this, and the City of Calgary must be part of the EnerGuide labeling program. So if your project is based in Calgary, you will be required to be part of their program. All the final projects costs need to be submitted, and then we do need photos as well of the project so that if we move forward with case studies or anything like that, we have them available. Um, any revisions to design drawings or documentation that happened since permitting and they were resubmitted, we would want the most up-to-date versions of those. And the other interesting thing on this one is that if you are a builder, a residential builder that builds houses, essentially what we want you to be able to come out of this process of going through with us is to have a high performance package upgrade offer. So you've now gone through the process of building a high performance home. And let's say you have a client that comes to you and says, I want a high performance home. We'd like to see that you've got an offer, like a package that you can say, yeah, no problem. We've done this before. We know what we're doing. Here's what the process would generally look like. Or if you are comfortable putting cost premiums in there, those types of things. We want to see that you've developed something that makes it easier for people to access high performance houses. And then if you have them available, installation invoices, we're more than happy to take as well. Stream two, the embodied emissions side of things. The main pieces on the design side is we have a same sort of thing, a design questionnaire. It's mostly about gauging understanding and knowledge around low embodied carbon materials, how using the beam estimator tool went, how building the capacity within your team to use that tool if it didn't already exist went, and whether or not there were unique issues with using low embodied carbon materials or designing with new low embodied carbon processes or methods. We will ask for a list of low embodied carbon materials and the associated information with those, and then your design drawings as well. Your building permit submission, essentially, for that side of things, and then access to your beam or MC squared model tool so that we can take a look at what you've actually put into the estimator. And the construction budget breakdown as well, because we're trying to figure out if there's increases or decreases in costs associated with low embodied carbon construction. Post-construction, you would need to submit another questionnaire. And then most of this is just very similar. So your beam model again, your building permit issues, you should have already submitted a bunch of this stuff, printed copies of your beam review. So sometimes what will happen is at design phase, you'll have one set of embodied carbon assessments, and then by construction, things have changed. So we want to see the revised version. If you've changed materials, perhaps, or massing or whatever ended up having to change, we would want to see both sets of those. And our I thought that we had removed blower door test results from this one, but I will double check on that one. For the second one. Our participation in the EnerGuide labeling program as well. For this one is a requirement as part of our funding from Calgary. And then photos, of course, as well for all of those pieces. And then stream three is a little bit different. The design questionnaire as well focuses really more on the details of how you design the system and how it was installed, whether or not there is specific control strategies needed, whether or not there are electrical system upgrades required, for anything, just sort of under so that we could understand what the full package is required for these types of projects. We'll also need the HVAC permit application, the any sort of drawings that were done for both the control systems as well as the heat pump system and natural gas, so that those P&IDs type things of everything all designed together. The F280 sizing for the system, control strategy, and then your pre and post Hot 2000 files post would be post construction. Um, and then we have a costing worksheet specifically for this stream as well. Post construction side of things as well. Uh, Pretty much the same side of things, just making sure that in addition to that would be include the commissioning report. So we've provided some guidelines on what we're hoping to see there, based on industry standards, and uh, proof of your EnerGuide label for the Calgary program as well. And then we do require invoices for this particular project. Those aren't optional because that helps us set the total funding amount that we're able to provide to you for this project, for this stream. So all the details are in here. If you have any questions about them, please do reach out. We can clarify exactly what we're looking for. The surveys, once you get through the EOI step of submitting it, you can see the detailed questionnaires that take 20 to 30 minutes. So you can see all those details that we're looking for in there as well. Any other questions?
Andrea, there's a few questions in the chat. I don't know if you'd prefer for me just to read them or you can take a look. The first one has to do with the baseline used for Alberta embodied carbon emissions. What was used as the baseline to determine the 200 kg of CO2 equivalent?
Yeah, so that was based off of some research that came out of Enercan, Graham. It's just like a national baseline that they've sort of set. So that's part of what we're trying to gather in this project is Alberta specific data that's more defendable and robust, because we don't really have anything other than what's come out of that federal work as far as I'm aware. If you happen to have something better, please do let me know. But that's where we standardize that too. It's also the same as what they used in the BC program, so that we had something that we could compare to, potentially with what they're doing as well. Okay, design manufacture low carbon foundation system. Yeah, so that's a great question, Mark, about how we connect with builders on this. This is something that I'll take back to the team. I think one of the things that we want to do is be able to highlight materials that we're learning about in the industry, right? Like that's part of sharing and moving things forward. We just need to be careful about how we do it through this program. We have talked about having some communities of practice for the builders who are working on projects to come together and present at. And if it's something that they would see value in, we could potentially bring in different product manufacturers so that they could talk to them. We also do a lot of this type of stuff through NBICS, right? So the Emissions Neutral Building Information Exchange, we've done some technology and materials panels before. That is part of what Alicia helps with on our team. So happy to tie your product into those discussions as well where appropriate. Funding seems to be supporting these tasks, blower door tests, energy models, F280 administration. If the funding is not exhausted through those tasks, then that's what we're paying for the data, Chelsea. So yeah, we don't require invoices for all of the individual tasks to prove to us that you've received it or that it's cost you that much to do it. So yeah, we wouldn't require those. So that's the money that you'll receive, is as long as we get all the data that we've asked for, you'll receive it regardless of whether or not it covered those tasks. Training required for participants. Yes. So that was phase two, Lisa. That is the beam training. And it's required. We require it at the design phase. So you've got to know how to use the beam tool to do your initial design work in the stream two. So, and we have the first sessions booked. I don't know if they're available for registration yet, Alicia. Can you remind me?
Yeah, correct. I just put it into the chat. I believe the beam is going to be administered in two separate sessions, two and a half hour sessions. Those are going to be mid-April, and then the MC squared training will also be post March 31st. We're just waiting on their team to get back to us with dates, but those will be scheduled here pretty quickly, and then we can send an email out to everybody as well to follow up with that.
Yeah. And I've taken, I'm assuming there's a few people on this call that have taken the training, the beam training at least. It's fantastic. I think that every builder should get to take something like that because it really, like even if you don't spend the rest of your life using the beam estimator every single project you do, the foundational knowledge you gain of like just the inherent design strategies and materials considerations that really make an impact from an embodied carbon perspective are really fantastic in that training. So that's a big part of what we're trying to do is just sort of elevate knowledge across the industry if anyone's asking. Okay. I think we answered all the questions in the chat. Are there any others? Yeah, how many questions are we, I mean, how many projects are we accepting? Lisa, I sent you an email with this in it this morning, but it's okay if you haven't read it yet. Completely depends on our budget availability. For our first year, we probably don't have a ton of funding. We're about 5 or 6 projects per stream in the first year. But if we manage to secure additional funding in the next few months, which is quite possible, we're always talking with funding partners. We're going to add more essentially. So it really depends on what our funding partners can bring to the table. But right now, I think our total goal was somewhere depending on where people apply, somewhere between 20 to 25 projects per stream is what we hope to be able to fund totally throughout the program. Yeah, Chelsea, that's a good question. We're really trying to sort of not, yeah. I think we'll see what we get into the EOI phase. I will say what we're doing, sorry, I should reiterate your question there, is whether or not if the project was started more than 12 months ago. What we're doing is we're sort of assessing those types of projects case by case. And it would be after we screen all the other EOIs, if there's funding available in that particular tranche, that we might consider looking at this. There's reasons we sort of set those limits on the program. And so we want to make sure that we're getting the benefit we were hoping for. What I will say is that we are talking about also doing a retroactive project that's separate than this at Alberta Ecotrust, where we might just gather data on projects that have happened in the past and are fully built and have been operational, and that we want to collect data for a different reason, rather than being able to impact the process or learn from this specific process as we go through it. So that might be a project that we would come back to you about at a later date once we've got this new project going where we're collecting everything retroactively instead of something that's in process, essentially. Yeah, toward net zero projects that are on right now, there's a ton of that. Those are all retrofits as far as I'm aware, Chelsea, but I agree it would be great to work with CHB. We will, if they're willing to share with us, and if like we would be more than willing to share with everyone. That's the whole point of this project, is share the data as much as possible. I can reach out to Lynn again on that. She has been aware of the design of this program for sure. Okay. Thanks, everyone. If you have questions after you read through the program guide, please feel free to reach out to us. But we done our best to try and make the program guide as clear as possible about what we're looking for. Thanks, everyone.